Well, greetings and hello there, everybody. It's me, your fabulous NOOCH father, all father, whatever I am. I'm here with Ranger and the Gerbil, our special guest. Ranger, how you doing today, sir? Nice to have you on the old channel, I guess.
That's right. I've popped in your Discord a few times and other things, and we've had some fun. Although you change your Discord settings, so I'm like, okay, I just won't jump in anymore. Fang, that's the way it is.
Oh, yes, the guest. Well, we had too many people jumping in on streams and making foul noises. So,
oh my goodness.
yeah.
Well,
Can you believe it?
If you give an inch, they'll take a mile. So yeah, that's why I'll do Discord once in a while, but I'll have a private channel set up so only people that I've given permission to can jump in, because there's been streams where I've done that, where I've opened it up to the community, and oh boy, that goes really crazy really fast. So, oh man, I understand why. Just give me permission, I'll come hang out more. If not, then I won't.
All right, so Gerbil, how you doing tonight?
Oh man, I'm doing pretty good. I got 3 more weeks of school, and then I get to trek home back to the States for the summer. So
awesome,
excited about that, and a little giddy about Poncho Qui Gon tomorrow.
Yeah, we need to talk about that. Let me jump over to the Poncho Qui Gon screen here, gentlemen. And I think it's what I think is interesting here is I think we represent 3 different schools of thought on the game in general. So I think this will be fun. Ranger's just the OG guy, been streaming since 1945. And
Wow,
Gerbil,
it's pretty good.
Yeah, I know, it's pretty amazing. He's a boomer.
Back in my day, we didn't have protection. We just had health. No
or
speed,
internet.
dang nabbit.
This is true. This is true. I remember those days. All right, and so let's talk about Qui-Gon then. His kit is out. He's there for, it seems like kind of a 3-person team, and then just plug in some spots. I mean, right? Isn't that kind of the intent here of what we're looking at?
Yeah, it's GR heavy for sure. His kit's pretty solid, but you notice that they're not. I got asked this the other day. We're not getting any other 2 more keys to add to. I'm like, no, they kind of named what they want in there. I mean, there's some combinations like with Keller and Beck and other characters that you can throw in there that will make that team really dynamite, especially with Queen Amidala coming out on Monday. For those that are getting her in Conquest, it's going to be a pretty potent combination. I mean, each of their kits, Kenobi's is really strong. Her kit's really strong, and you have the addition of Qui-Gon, and you look at all the calls and assists and buffs and things. That team's going to be a real pain in the ass to deal with. I think it's going to have hard counters, of course, but it's still going to be a pain in the. It's going to be awful to try to take down if you don't have the right stuff to do it. Because especially with the addition of Qui-Gon, with what he adds to the team, because oh my goodness, it's pretty strong.
Yeah, I haven't had time to really digest Qui-Gon's kit yet, but I did get to use Padawan Obi-Wan today in GAC, which was a lot of fun. I got the Obi-Wan level 9 Datacron from the Unlock event. So I went in with Padme lead, Padawan Obi-Wan Shaak Ti, and I destroyed a CLS 2PO 3PO on defense like it was just butter. I mean, I just walked through. I think I one-hit Chupio, in fact. I was like, wow. So if that was any kind of an indication, then I'm pretty stoked about it. But like I said, having not really read the kit, I have a question for you then, Ranger. It sounds like you've probably read it and they're a bit more versed on it. Is there any chance that this would be a place to put Cody and Clone Sergeant, who see almost no game time?
I mean, they are GR, but I mean, it's still new, so we don't. It takes like about a week, the people that'll run in there and do untold different amounts of trial and error that I just don't do. We'll come up with some stuff. I mean, I usually, when I look at a kid, it looks more like, could you use those characters? Sure, but I mean, they're not. I don't see how. I mean, I can see Cody, I guess Clone Sergeant as well, but I'm more thinking that Keller and Beck, those new, I mean, they even hinted at that on the forums, will be way more potent than those two. just because of the way it works with the Jedi synergy from the kits, and then the GR synergy, and it'll be GR Jedi that you'll want to run, Cam, Kellerbeck, that kind of thing. Again, the calls and assists and stuff like that. And I don't know if the clones, because of Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan, would be as strong, but you never know, because we always get these kits, and then, you know, for the most part, I got to say though, the CG, because back in the day, you had such a mishmash of characters you would put together for teams, and they've gotten away from that, and they've been very specific in their kits because of that. When you read it, you know, it's either a faction specific, and even if you delve down more, it's certain characters that are specific for it. So some you can get away with using different characters, like Hut Cartel. You can run Greedo, or, you know, some of the other ones. It's not as good as, say, the main team you would run for Hut Cartel Jabba, but you can run them, and they're solid. So I think they would be solid. I just don't think they'll be as good as, say, Killer Beck and some of the other Jedi. Yeah,
I was just skimming Clone Sergeant and Cody's kit here, just, you know, hoping, like I said, not familiar. And I was like, oh yeah, Clone Sergeant's entire kit, I think, is shorter than Qui-Gon's basic. So just looking at it, though, it's got call outs to the unique on both of the clones to other clone allies. And it's like, oh yeah, so that's not going to benefit the team anything. Oh well, I was just hoping. But there's no shortage of GR Jedi that are sitting on the bench also, with, like, I'm a Gundy and of course, now I'm going to forget all their names, right? Let's see, who else is sitting there?
Now you're making me forget. Sure. Well, Lumi's out there.
Lumi, there's Barrett, there's Plo Koon. Yeah, there's a bunch of them. I mean,
there's quite a few.
Barris was on the was in the starting lineup for a year or two there, and then she just dropped and has never seen it since. It's really interesting.
You know, and Plo, I think, is actually a really good character. Actually, it's just not as good as everything else. Maybe this will be a good home for him, especially being a pilot.
Yeah, I mean, it might be. I mean, again, we'll get different combinations, and you'll see it. I always look at SWGOH.gg and look at trends on what teams are, not so much for threes, but for fives, and get a good sense of what people will run on defense, and what counters are using. So I just get it into my brain. So when I'm doing GAC, I see the options, you know, especially when you're dealing with your community that are watching and throwing out ridiculous things. It's like, no, we're not using cup here, guys. Okay. I'm sorry. It's not a viable option, you know.
Uninstall. Homeboy needs some love.
No, he doesn't.
You know, an interesting thought process to me is each time these teams are released, because they're so effective, you know, they're not releasing anything now that's like mediocre. I mean, it's like you get Gungans, and they're killing Galactic Legends, and then they add Omicrons and for Grand Arena, and then you get a Datacron, and before that it was Bo-Katan, same thing. Before that it was, you know, I'm trying to think. Anyway, each team that comes out, it just seems like it's just a big time team, and it's interesting to think of the teams that are falling out of the end game meta as you go along. And like you kind of mentioned, Gerbil, like CLS, you just destroyed him with a Padme team with Obi-Wan in there. I don't think they want CLS to fall out of the meta, so I'm curious to see if they would correct that at some point. Or it's always curious to me to kind of look at that part of it as these teams are impacting what's out there right now, and how awesome. And that was another thing, Ranger. You know, for a long time they did these marquees, and they'd be good, but they wouldn't be just like massively crazy, especially for 6 months while a Datacron is out when they first come out. But I get the idea. They gotta incentivize people paying for them. You know.
Well, yeah, and some teams are way more powerful. I don't think CLS is out of the meta. I don't think CLS is good on defense, unless you have a certain cron. Like I actually ran CLS in the last couple fives on defense, and it had one with the scoundrel cron and one with the other one with crazy stats and stuff on it. And I got hold with it because, you know, they forget CLS. The problem with CLS on defense, unless you have the right cron and stuff, and you have to have the right modding, it's just not very good on defense. Just the way the AI will go about using it and stuff, with Han, who he shoots first, that kind of thing. So it's not as strong on defense as the other teams. But CLS on offense, with you controlling it, can still take on a lot of stuff. Now it's not as strong as it used to be, but it is still very potent because you have your top teams and then those teams right underneath. And CLS is one of those. It's like, oh, I've got CLS. I'll just use that here, you know. But yeah, any team can be with Datacrons can go up and down depending on what the Datacron is, you know. I think CG's done a really good job, not just with the new characters, like, you know, like Bo and Bane and all these characters that have come in, like you mentioned, the Gungans, but they've gone really a good job of going back in and adding characters for those lesser characters and teams like Resistance. I mean, Finn Resistance back in the day was just your leftover Resistance you put down and said, well, maybe they'll take some banners. You didn't think it was going to get a hold. And then they added Zor, and you're like, now you know, it's like, you know, like Night Sisters with Marin. Night Sisters back in the day you kept for offense, just for certain situations, for plague and stuff like that. But now Marin's on there, you can slap that on defense too. Yeah, it's got counters and stuff to it, but again, it just makes those teams more viable. And you know, I mean, everybody thinks when they think counter, does this kill a GL? Well, not everything's going to be able to kill a GL, and if it can kill a GL, it's only certain GLs it's going to be effective against. And there are counters to it that just, you know. That's just the way the meta shifted. It's gone away from defense being really strong in GAC and other spots to it being more about offense and having more teams and more strategy in your attack for points than it was back in the day, where you didn't have Darth Revan and you're doing GAC, you were in big trouble.
Game over.
You had nothing to beat it. You know, it's like, okay, they have Darth Revan in the South, I'll just not do GAC, you know, so this round. So yeah, I think that's kind of what CG's mental game plan is for this.
And back in the day when there were only 2 GLs, right, all we had was Ray and Slicker. Like if your Bonehead had one of those, you were never going to get through them on defense. It's like just game over. But no, it's evolved. You're right. It's evolved a lot. And I think that last year was a fantastic year for lifter marquees with Nisa and Marin and such. I mean, they really brought out a lot of Captain Rex. They brought out a lot of lifter units. That was fantastic. But 2024 so far has been like marquee meta madness, like everything. Like the Gungans really seem to need to be together, but they're doing magic. I won my first round today purely with Gungans. I put who did I put on? It was a Nas, Jar Jar, and Tarples. Okay. And I have the Jar Jar Kron, and they got 3 holds, I think. And then I was able to defeat my opponent with only 1 drop battle. And I was like, well, that's it. Even if they go in a full clear, they can't win now. So, yeah. So have you noticed an interesting thing though with the Qui Gon marquee event tomorrow is that it looks like, if I read that correctly, you cannot play beyond the first round if you don't have Padawan and Obi-Wan, and they're re-releasing him. Yeah. So if you want to get a Relic 5 Qui-Gon, for example, you have to have a Relic 5, Obi-Wan. Yeah. That's I don't know how I feel about that. I don't like that.
It makes sense. I mean, if you're free to play and you're not a more of an end game player, that those crystals, you're in the position to your crystals can get you close or at that level. It's an incentive to incentivize spending. You know, I actually like the new marquee structure. I'm a big fan of it. I'm glad they've been doing it they went past the Gungans with it. And yeah, I totally understand it. And if you're free to play, you're just gonna have to wait. I mean, that's just the way it's always been. But I think for spenders, I mean, I think I spent $100 for Kenobi. You know, that's just because I had awful pulls, but that's just the way my life has been in SWGOH since I started playing, because of the damn Illuminati over there turning the dial and make sure I get 5s on every pull. But I think this new marquee structure is really not just for your Krakens and whales. You know, they're going to spend to get these characters, but to go from having to spend $300 to like $100-something is a big incentive for these new characters. And I think CG is starting to see that, but it's also smart because it's like, okay, these are all, you kind of need some of these characters to work together, so we can make a little money off this. If you really want Qui-Gon, you're gonna have to do Obi-Wan Kenobi, and that's just the way it is. So you have to spend a little cash, and it's more realistic of a spend than it was previously when it was, I mean, what, at least $300 or $400 on each character. That was just crazy, you know. So
just to get the
new marquee
stars
system is much better.
Yeah.
All right, that
It's
kind
just
of,
realistic.
for me, that leads us a little bit to our next topic we were talking about. Was, so let's say you spend on Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan, and you've got are these guys going to be part of our next GL or our next capital ship, or what is on the way? You know, Anna was talking yesterday about Road Ahead. Looks like maybe it's coming next month or sometime soon ish. What's it going to have? Are we skipping a capital ship, because we are definitely past the point of the last couple of years where we had a capital ship announced? Or what's going on? What's happening next? What's shaking?
Well, Meathead did say, I think someone messaged me yesterday while I was streaming, that he posts something in SWGOH events, which he does a lot, that there'll be a Road Ahead soon. What that means, I don't know. I usually when Meathead does something like that, about a week to 10 days afterwards, we've usually gotten a Road Ahead, because it has to go through the process of writing it, being approved, all that stuff, right? To make sure that there's nothing out there that's going to come back and bite them in the butt. I still think, you know, people were talking about that. I mean, we're past the previous Road Ahead. Qui-Gon's out, and that's it, right? I mean, and if you look at previous, this is about the time, and then I guarantee you, as soon as after next week, on the Road Ahead or whatever's going to get announced for the next Conquest character is going to tell us which way they're going. And then you're going to see, like last summer around June, July, right? We had, I think sometime in June, we had the first Galactic Chase for Leviathan, and then 2 weeks later we had another Galactic Chase for the second ship for Leviathan, and at that same time you had Conquest going on for, of course, you know, the ship that was needed for Leviathan and as well. And then through June, July, then I think it was August that Leviathan came out, or no, it was July, somewhere in July that debacle happened, which I'm hoping doesn't happen this time. So they're still kind of on the same cadence. I mean, if you look at the last 3-4 years, they've been in this cadence where beginning of the year we get some marquees and a legendary, then we get, and it'll be themed about whatever is going on in Star Wars at the time or for the game. Then you get the ship meta through July, August. Then it rotates as that's wrapping up. You start getting the next GL character in the fall, right? Heading toward October, September, October timeline, right? And then November, December, the holidays that's the random one. That's where you get a Star Killer or Dr. Aphra, something that doesn't really, could be anything at that point, you know, because when people ask me what's coming, I'm like, it could be anything they want, because they've followed what they had to do. Now they get to do what they want to do with whatever legendary or event they're going to do there. For the actual meta, I still think it's Trench. I think they're going Separatist fleet with Trench. I
knew this was going to happen. Go ahead, keep going.
Because you look at this, the way they do ships and stuff. I still think that's it. Could it be something else? Sure. You never know with CG. That's not even close to being 100% on that guest. That's just past experience, what they're going to do. And I still think the next GL is going to be from the community feedback and what they really, really want, including me. You see my boy back there. Let me turn my chair this way. There he is. Yeah. A true Revan. You can call him Dark Revan, Revan Reborn, whatever it is. I do know that was a character that they had created a long time back when I interviewed CG Carey, that she said they had a third version of Revan they were going to do, but they just felt that there was too much Revan burnout in the community. So I think he'll be the next GL. But the cadence could get changed. CG does it all the time. We could skip a fleet meta and just go into a GL. You just never know. We do have the raid coming around the corner too.
Yeah.
And we're going to get that information as well. So that's going to dictate a lot of stuff for the community. So those are kind of where I'm at with all this stuff. Just guesses. We're all just educationally guessing what this is going to be.
Gerbil, go. Fight, boys, fight. No.
Oh no, I've got so many thoughts there. There's so much to speculate on. I think Revan Reborn is definitely something the community's been asking for years. I mean, I remember when I was predicting it was going to be, I said it would be Tarkin and Leia, and everybody was like, "No, you're absolutely nuts. Neither of them are coming." We got Leia. I was wrong on Tarkin. Yeah, I admit that. But Revan, I think that Revan is unlikely. Though I think there's a good monetization opportunity there in that, like Zalbar T3 mission, Juhani, Jolie, I'm just looking at them all. They are actually quite undergeared when you look at the relic levels and growth opportunity in the community. There's a lot of room there to push those up as requirements if they would need to be. Otherwise, pretty much everybody else is already very high relic leveled and needed for so many other things that I just look at it from a monetization perspective, which is how I got to Leia, Profundity, and a few other predictions. I don't see that happening at this point. Now they could of course introduce more marquee characters for the next GL, but given that they just dropped all of the Gungans and then Padawan and then Qui-Gon, I think that they've done enough marquees already that they need to focus on ships. The ships is in a bad state. Nobody likes Leviathan mirror matches. I don't think people like Leviathan. And so they need to address that first. And so if they do that, we're not going to get, I don't think we're going to get marquees for a while. I think the next conquest is absolutely going to be a ship. And I think that I would be really surprised if Admiral Trench is the fleet commander for the next ship. A couple reasons. One, they've been on a light dark alternating path for a long time. The last ship, Leviathan, is Sith. Sith Empire, yeah, but Sith. So it makes a lot more sense that the next one, based on their trends, would be light side Jedi, which makes everybody go, what? We already got Negotiator and Endurance, but we don't have Resolute. And it would be a light side, and it would be Galactic Republic, and we're getting Galactic Republic now. And it's a good time to push Relic 10, which is monetization, and put Gas as the commander for it. Now, if it is a dark side, I think it's more likely it would be the Trade Federation ship with Newt, because I don't think that there's any reason to abandon Phantom Menace just because we've thrown out 7 characters. So I think a Trade Federation ship with Newt, then you pull in the droids for it, and then that you solidify or introduce a couple new droids perhaps. And Malevolence does not need to get nerfed. Like if you look in the gift store, maybe it's been there forever, there's a Geo fleet bundle that you can buy as a gift. It's a horrible price. Don't do it. And then we got the Geo light side. So they're kind of prepping us to have a Geo fleet ready to go, which would bolster Malevolence if you were to start siphoning away like the bomber and stuff. Now, I don't know that they would do that so much, but at the same time, like with Separatists, we don't have a ship for Asajj. We don't have a ship for Dooku. There are several characters already in game ready to go. So I'm still feeling it's going to be Resolute. And if not, my second bet would be a Newt Gunray led Separatist ship.
That makes a lot of sense. I've heard the new rumblings. I still, and that totally makes sense if that's the direction they go. I still think it's going to be Separatists. In patterns, they like for Conquest, like last year, it was all dark side because I kept saying next character is going to be Satil Shan, light side. They're going to get it. We still not sniff because we got to the airport last year. I'm like, well, we got Malgus the previous year. I mean, it makes sense. You're going to get Satil Shan around this time. And no, we got his ship. And I was like, yeah, that's a lot of dark side back to back to back to back to back. Usually with that stuff, whether they go light side or dark side, I'm usually like, not so much the event itself, like a legendary ship and GL pattern. Yes, but yeah, it could be anything. And I do think that the Separatists is where they'll go because I mean, Asajj doesn't have her ship and Dooku doesn't have his ship, as you mentioned. So whether it's Newt or Trench, I still think that's where we're headed. I just could they go more GR? Sure, I guess.
Well, see, following the money. Following the money again. There's Eth Koth. I'm a Gundy Jedi Guardian. Oh man, who's
Yoda.
The guy that looks like a Twi'lek? Yeah, Grandmaster Yoda, the Twi'lek guy. the people without ships, Luminara,
Oh yeah,
Jedi Consular, Caloran Back.
Jedi Council
Who's
has
the
a ship.
Twilight guy?
Oh, he's
He
people
meant
in
Plo
the audience
Koon.
gonna
Plo
no,
Koon?
He
not
meant
Plo
Plo
Koon. No,
Koon.
he's got like the big black alien eyes. He looks like he's Twilight, but he's not. It's got the
Yeah,
oh,
Plo
Plo.
Koon.
I'm gonna
It's
no,
Plo Koon.
100% not Plo Koon. No. Jedi.
The green
Jedi is
guy?
gonna be like gear 11 on my account. Here we go. Kit Fisto.
Oh, Kit Fisto.
Kit
Yeah.
Fisto.
Okay. Yes. Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Okay,
like if you think
Cafisto.
about
Okay, I was
all
like,
of
who are you
these
talking about?
characters,
Twilight.
other than
no, they're
Beck,
spoiling Jedi.
all those Jedi are like in the bottom 50 least geared characters in game. So you throw out some ships for them, and you make it the meta fleet, and suddenly they're rolling in dough again as everybody starts slapping on Relic 7, 8, 9 into characters like Kit, Koth, and Imagundi, Guardian, Consular, Luminara, and then even Beck. Beck is a fantastic pilot.
Well, what about the idea that they put out this Yoda PFP and then it disappeared? And maybe they're teasing us something ahead of time. Maybe Grandmaster Yoda comes out and we get like a Yaddle marquee or something and a few other marquees, and there we get to use those characters finally.
What about Jedi Council Leader Yoda?
Yeah, right. I mean, or maybe it's just another Red 5 thing where they're going to throw it out there and make us think stuff and distract from
Red 5
what's
doesn't
really happening.
exist.
One day.
Someday.
Yeah. But I think also another capital ship in CG's mind would be like gating it behind Cam, which doesn't sound scary to a lot of veteran players, but if you are a newer player and you're in a guild that skipped the Geo battle, getting Cam is really hard.
Mm-hmm.
It just took me over a year to farm him, and I bought there were 2 packs that popped up in the store that had 30 shards each for like $20. So I dropped $40 at Kyber 1 level, 11 million GP to get Cam, right? So if they were to do a Resolute and then gate it behind a Cam with a marquee ship, Kat could have her own ship, even though.
Oh, and she could fly. Her special be flying around it like this outside.
Yeah,
you
there's
have to have
so
a
many
spacesuit
opportunities.
Come on.
Now my guild, and we're at like 375, something like that. Is that right? I don't know where we are. We're just finishing up Riva, and we're gonna go back and do light side territory battles just to get Cam. For probably 6 months. So Gerbil's got family stuff. Go ahead, Ranger.
That's okay. Well, yeah, and Gerbil said something about marquees, that we've gotten a lot of marquees. That don't mean anything. This CG, baby. Come on now. We're gonna get a lot of marquees coming up, man. That's just the way it goes. You can see that everything they released is around the marquees. And I tell you, if they keep the event the way it is, they're going to make a nice little penny on it, because players will be more inclined to spend than they were before, because a lot of older players that are not Krakens, like myself, I mean, I would be like, hell no, I'm not spending $300. I would just save my crystals and get them out of shipments. And it's like for the last couple of GLs, it's like I didn't get them day one, but I got them 2.5, 3 weeks later, because I was just finishing up waiting for those shipments to go in and have my crystals. Bam, there's 85. Next week, bam, 85. That character's done, and I'll go do the event. So, yeah, I think that they're seeing that if you price stuff right, people don't mind spending.
Yeah.
If you make it outrageously expensive, then you'll get the Krakens to spend. The Krakens will always spend, but then you're not getting that extra income coming in. And oh yeah, trust me, there'll be marquees all over the place for the ships, and there'll be chases, and there'll be, especially for the GL, you're going to get at least 3 marquees associated with whatever
4.
GL it is. And Revan would be the Old Republic is something that they could easily add more marquees in, and I think the Old Republic's needed love for a long time, because they just haven't been touched, and that faction is really just it's inept right now for where you use it, or if you use it at all.
Well, and it has a really loyal fan base. I mean, it's a niche within the greater Star Wars community, but it is a very, very loyal, engaged fan base.
1,000%. Oh yeah. I mean, there's so many good stuff. And when you say Old Republic, you're talking thousands of years and tons of characters and stuff. So, and if it is going to tie around Revan, there's so much more. I mean, we've talked about Scourge and just all these characters from Knights of the Old Republic 2 and other places that they could pull to make a Revan GL fun. You know, make that Old Republic faction fun. You know, especially for the low fan base.
I think my only other thought against it would be, and just playing a bit of devil's advocate here, would be that they would probably want to capitalize more on the current screen events. The Ahsoka show, maybe a return of Thrawn, you know, Heir to the Empire Thrawn GL is a potential. And then you have yet another Ahsoka, and then, who knows, you know, another Mandalorian, another. Yeah, exactly. And I can't remember all the character names, having just, you know, not seen the show now for a few months. But
they could have another Ezra, but all he does is stand around with his arms folded and act really cool the whole time.
Well, he did.
I don't need a lightsaber.
He did build a new lightsaber. He went in there.
All right.
But he did build one. I know he had that one scene, but yeah. But I think that would be really cool if they did do that. I don't know if Ahsoka. It doesn't really matter. It's what CG says is a galactic legend, and then we can debate if that's galactic. When I think galactic legends, I think somebody that had a monumentous impact on the galaxy and the lore, right? And these characters like Revan or Exar Kun, or you know, I've always brought them up, the Eternal Throne family, Ark and Thex and Valkorion. I mean, Valkorion, took over the galaxy. Of course, that was Vitiate part 3, but
are those marketable?
Speaking a foreign language to me at the moment.
Yeah, those aren't marketable. That's my thing. Is all the galactic legends we've seen have been extremely, like, you could walk on the street and say Princess Leia, and 95% of people know exactly what you mean.
Jabba.
Or Jabba the Hutt, you know. So, but Valkorion.
There's been a debate about Jabba, but I mean, you know, with the Dizzy Rise to the level of GL, like, well, maybe not in power wise and stuff, but he's a very popular character.
Right.
I mean, he's well known.
Right.
Is he on the same level as, say, some of these other characters? Maybe not, but I mean, he is well known. So, you know, and word of, you know, people knowing who that character is, it has an impact.
Yeah, well, trying to guess what CG is going to do is, like you said, is all but impossible. It's a fun speculation, but I think when speculating, you have to throw out logic, because like what we define as a galactic legend is not what however they define it. You're absolutely right on that. I mean, if they decide that the Mandalorian is galactic legend worthy, despite, you know, maybe less than 1,000 people in reality knowing who he is in the Star Wars galaxy, doesn't matter. He's going to be a galactic legend in the game. So that's a slippery slope. But I agree with you, and that's why I actually thought about Grand Moff Tarkin, because as a potential GL, as a, you know, a side to Leia, because Tarkin was huge. I mean, he was akin to Vader. I mean, he was as he was more known throughout the Empire than even Lord Vader was. You know, he was way more influential and more impactful on the Empire and its development. But I had so many people hit me back and be like, oh, no one cares about Tarkin, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, well, actually, he's been in more shows than any other character, except for, I think, Leia.
They've really fleshed out his character. Whether you go back to all the shows that have been recently, Tarkin, he has been there somehow, some way. Even the last few episodes of Bad Batch, he was a part of it. I mean, side thing,
Rebels, Clone Wars, everything.
Oh yeah, he had his hand in everything, and if you've read the books, he is really, really involved in there, and everything that goes on with the Empire. You know, so I agree.
All right, the community told me.
Oh, go ahead, Gerbil. You go.
It's okay. I think I get in the hint. Is it time?
I think it's time. I think it's time. Yeah, I think we've flushed out a significant part of the what's next conversation, which is an awesome conversation. It's going to be a fun next few months, and I think Capital Games has done a great job of retooling their game to work for every player in the game, and I love it. All right, Ranger, we come to the time in each of our collab videos where we have our special guest rank the Star Wars movies 11 to 1, and we find that these are some of our most fun times. We get a lot of comments on it too, where we've had literally every every possible ranking you could think of. I mean, we've had Bit Dynasty really dislikes Revenge of the Sith because he loves Anakin, and Celiac Sierra really loves the prequels or the sequels. Excuse me, the sequels. So let's get it. Let's start with your number 11. Let's rank those movies and tell us what's going
Oh,
on,
we're going
man.
backwards. Oh my god, I was going to kind of
yeah.
the other one.
No, we want to
First
build
to
to the,
last.
you know,
Oh my god.
if it's easier,
All
you know,
It's
whatever's
gonna be
easier
hard.
for you.
Yeah,
Revan wasn't in any of the
from
movies, so
I wish, right? Oh my god, that'd be so great. No, it's better for me just to go from one and work my way back, because some of them I'm just like, you can put them in any position at the end there. It's like it's all right, so my number one Star Wars movie of all time is Rogue One. Rogue One for me hit me hard. Being an Army veteran and Ranger and all that stuff that I am, that movie, I was blown away with the story and just the key scenes. The one key scene where Cassian's talking about before they go on the mission, that, you know, having to do what they do, and that whole thing, that whole spiel that he went through, I was like, oh my god, this movie is so good. And this, the way it ended, was just so powerful and impactful. You know, and then of course the Vader scene. Are you kidding me? I mean, get out of here, man. There's only two scenes you know, in action scenes I've ever seen that where it's just one dude against everything. Vader in Rogue One and Luke in Mando season 2, where it's like, oh, you know, it's like, oh my god, it's so good. But yeah, Rogue One for me is a phenomenal movie. I thought it just was so different from the other Star Wars movies. And you really got to the griminess of, you know, what the rebels had to do, you know, more in the casting show. They've gotten way better with that, but yeah, Rogue One introduced us to, there are sacrifices that have to be made. This is not just like, you know, the original trilogy, and people are going to die, and the rebels are not clean, and they will do whatever they have to do, like he did in the beginning, where it's like, I can't let this guy get captured or we're in big trouble, right? And he kills them. You know, that's the kind of stuff. I love KTSO. I thought he was such a great, him and Jin, that just so many great character moments, from church to base to the entire, you know, that whole scene on the beach on Scarif was just unbelievable, where those guys drop in to help the team. They know they're not making it out. The pilots that go in there, they know they are going to not make it. They're just trying to buy time to get this mission done. And I thought it was brilliant. Rogue One's my number one. Number two is Empire Strikes Back. I think Empire Strikes Back to me is a perfect Star Wars movie, and almost a perfect movie in general. It has a high bar. I mean, it's so many great moments, from the Battle of Hoth to the reveal of Vader as Luke's father. I mean, the lightsaber battle between Luke and Vader, just everything in there. The relationship with Han and Leia. It's so many great one-liners in there. You know, Han comes in, it's like, I feel terrible. You know, it's like, oh, it's so good.
It really is.
Any question. So many. It's just such a impactful Star Wars movie. I think it's just, it'll always be a top movie for me. I love it.
I'm gonna concur. When you say Empire Strikes Back is almost a perfect movie, for me it's the greatest movie ever made, and I can sit down and watch it today, tomorrow, whenever, and it's the movie that I grew up on, the movie that impacted me most in the movie theater. Yeah, I'm on board Empire all the way. You're the first person that ranked Rogue One number one, I think. Isn't that right, Gerbil? Everybody's had it high.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I think, well, everybody except Sanjita hates Rogue One. But he's a curmudgeon-y old man, so I don't know if that really matters.
But I think almost everybody puts it in the top five.
Yeah.
It's such a great movie.
Yeah.
It's so damn good.
And just
man.
even beyond the dialogue and the action, just the cinematography alone. I mean, the scene where the X-Wings come down over that lake with the mountains, it's just a beautiful shot. You know, there's so many takeaways from that film. And just introductions of things like Chirrut being a force using non-Jedi, non-Sith, right? I don't think we had seen that really, at least not in live action. The diversity of characters, there's just there's so much more that I think speaks to the greater size and scope of the galaxy in there. You know, Pow and Biston only had a couple of moments in there, yet you see more inclusive of aliens, more inclusive of
it's the stark difference between the Empire and the Rebellion. Yes.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
All right. What's
I love
three?
it.
It's so
Okay.
good. And then Empire's number 2. Number 3 for me is Revenge of the Sith. I love that movie. It has its small little problems for me, but I mean, the action in that, I remember when I saw it in the theaters, that opening sequence of the Battle of Coruscant blew me away. And you can tell that Hayden and Ewan had gotten more comfortable with each other, their interactions. It was so good. You could tell that they've been through a lot together, and just the way they were just interacting with everything. And I thought Ewan McGregor as Kenobi just crushed it. I mean, absolutely crushed it. And I really love how they really show how manipulative Palpatine really was. You know, just some of the greatest lines and stuff, the way he says things was just so good. You know, I thought it was, but the scene in the when he's watching the opera, right, and he's just working Anakin, man, it's like, oh my God, you're such a douche, man. And you know, he's playing off Anakin like a fiddle, man. Like, you know, just those little looks and stuff. It's like, Ian, you killing this, bro. And the fight scene at the end between Kenobi and Anakin is still unbelievable, you know, and so powerful. And the lines from that fight were so great. And that's not even talking about the Yoda Sidious fight that's going on in the Senate. You're throwing stuff at each other. The way they were. I always love when Yoda comes in, the guards look at him, he's like, get out of here. You know, just throws them over and just starts talking trash to Sidious. Like, so powerful you are, Byron. You know, it's like, oh man, Yoda talking trash, man. But the Kenobi Anakin fight at the end of that is just, you know, that line, I have failed you, Anakin. I have failed you. You know, it's just like, oh God. And then the way Ewan McGregor pulls off the end where he's done fighting, you see he takes a breath, and then all the emotion comes out of him, just yelling at Anakin of why you made me have to do this, you know, kind of thing, you know, the pain and anguish and stuff. So good. So Revenge of the Sith, just for everything that it did. It's so good, man. I love it. I think it's number 3.
I struggle a lot with that movie on so many different levels, and like that fight scene there, like I struggle to accept that Obi-Wan would have just walked away from him burning, you know, and not even give him a mercy kill. I struggled with the way they dueled and battled so epically, and then suddenly give it up. I have the high ground, instant win. It's like I don't know. I couldn't.
I think you're confusing that with the Kenobi show where Obi-Wan just walked away for no reason.
Well, he walked away both times, but I mean, if you watch the shows, Anakin was the ruthless one. Kenobi was very much, he just couldn't kill someone he loved that much. He thought he was going to die anyway. I mean, if you saw someone get burned up by liquid hot magma, you'd probably like, yeah, he ain't gonna make it, right? So I do agree.
I feel like he would have done a mercy killing.
No, I don't think Kenobi had it in him, nor is it part of his character through the shows or anything that where Kenobi would just go through. You know, he it's just not him. You know, Kenobi will fight, and he's a great offensive, but even with his fights with Maul and Savage and everybody, he's not looking to kill them. He's just looking to defeat them. You know, I know later on in life he kills Maul, but that's because Maul didn't give him much choice. You know, and that was one of those things where it's like he had no choice with Maul. But yeah, I think it was very much in Kenobi's character. And I think the high ground thing is more about Kenobi just sitting there telling him, like, look, man, you damn well know, as powerful as you are, that tactically don't try some nonsense, right? Like you did in the beginning where you're all flipping around stuff because I'm going to do something here. And Anakin's looking at him like, you ain't gonna do anything, old man, you know, and got really arrogant. I think that's just a symbol of Anakin's arrogance, thinking that he's so much more powerful, he's better than Kenobi, and that's just not the case. And he paid the price for it.
Plus, now we have the
All right,
high
I think
ground.
we
So
could.
It's
I
a
think we could talk
philosophical
forever
kind
too,
of thing.
because
Yeah.
I want to know also why Yoda gave up after one battle and ran away. But we can come back to that one later.
all right, what's number 4?
Number four is A New Hope. That is the OG. It's again a great movie. It started the whole thing, and it's not that I don't think it's an awesome movie. I just think those other ones, because more movies come along, and and they just have better moments and stuff. But I mean, it's still awesome. This is what kicked it all off, and Star Wars, and Episode 4. It will always be in my top 5. It has to be. Just over the years, Empire just was always my, before Rogue One, I always had Empire as my number 1 movie. But Episode 4. I mean, nothing else needs to be said. This is the OG that set it all off, and I was not old enough when it came out to remember watching it in the theaters. Empire Strikes Back was the first one for me, but going back and watch it, we would watch that movie all the time. Put in the how old I am, put in the VCR tape, and we wore that thing out, all the Star Wars movies. So you had to watch it. You had to watch Episode 4 before you watch Episode 5. That's just the way it is. And Nooch is over there sneezing away. Allergies, baby.
Just hacking up along. We're good. Yeah, it's the same thing. We wore out the VHS tapes. I think I've still got them somewhere over there. But I have a lot of people talk to me about VHS. Even people in their 20s, where their dad pulled them aside and they had old VHS tapes, and they dust off the old VCR, and they'll go back and watch those. But yeah, my son wore out Phantom Menace. When you get to the mall scene, the eventually the tape was just like vroom, 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 over and over. But yeah, I'm on board, man.
So that's Episode 4. The next one, of course, is going to be Return of the Jedi. That's number 5. Return of the Jedi. Its overall story and structure, and it wraps up everything. There's a lot of great moments in there, but not the biggest fan of the Ewoks. But I do understand why people love the Ewoks.
Well, time's up.
And I understand the symbolism of what that fight was representing, right? With the how these little fur balls are overcoming the AT-STs. I still love the scene. Not I'm a big fan of the Ewoks, but I did love some of their antics of them trying to do stuff like using the rope to try to trip the AT-ST and drag.
They get dragged,
but but they kept trying to use different tactics and stuff and things, and so I thought that was really cool. So some of the cuter moments and stuff, it's like, okay, but you see what the Ewoks represent in the overall story. I mean, the ship battle itself back in the day you're blown away by that. The Death Star and everything. Luke's journey and the fight scene between Luke and Vader and Palpatine. Oh my God! I mean, that alone, I can watch that over and over again. Especially when Luke gets angry and just starts wailing on his dad. It's like, oh my God, it's so good. And then to see just how evil and just nasty Palpatine is, where he's he doesn't just kill Luke, he's torturing him. He's going to torture him to death, and in a horrific way, and the redemption of Anakin. So the whole story and fulfilling the prophecy, he does bring balance to the Force. So, and really the first 6 movies are really Anakin's story. It really is. And then Luke in the second part of it. But it's all about Anakin's journey, his fall and then his redemption. So Return of the Jedi is number 5. And then we get to the other movies. Oh boy.
So this is your cutoff. The top 5 is your cutoff, and then
I'll rank them. I think number 6, I'm going to put I know this may be controversial. I'm going to put Episode 7 in there.
Wow.
As bad as this, there's a lot of problems with the sequels. I liked Episode 7. I mean, I know it was a rehash of some things, but it was new. It was different. When it first came out, we were doing all kinds of speculation of who Rey was and where this was going to go, especially the way the first movie, the way episode 7 ended. And you had all these really interesting and fascinating characters with Finn and Poe. And I just thought, man, yeah, the story itself is kind of a rehash of some stuff in the past, but like, I didn't really mind that so much. I was looking at the characters like, man, there's a lot of potential here, you know, especially at the end of the movie where she meets Luke. I'm like, all right, here we go, baby. I can't wait, you know, let's do this, right? Mm-hmm. So yeah, I'm gonna put episode 7 at number 6. And then at number 7, I'm gonna put the Han Solo movie. I think that movie gets a lot of hate, but it got a lot of hate for other reasons other than it was a good movie. It's not a great movie, but it's a really good movie. There's a lot of awesome moments in there, and a lot of awesome scenes, and introduced some really cool characters like Enfys Nest and some other things that were in there that I was like, you know what? This is a pretty decent movie. I love what they did with Lando, and I love how they took the story of Han and Chewie and just all that stuff. And people forget at the end of that movie, you see Maul, and he's in the background. And I remember going, man, this has some good potential. It's a shame because of episode 8, the backlash that that movie received. But I mean, it was directed by Ron Howard, who went in there and really, you can tell it had the Ron Howard touch of these really cool moments in there that he's known for in his movies, and I really liked it. I don't think it's great. There are some, you know, of course, there's some stuff in there I'm like, okay, but I mean, we got Woody Harrelson in the movie. That's all I care. I mean, and then I think the heist and everything on that show was really well done, and it was something, you know, different. Again, not Sith and Jedi and all this other stuff. It was just, you know, it was just the shady underworld of Star Wars, and I really loved it. So I think it deserves to be higher than the rest of these movies. Number 8 would be Attack of the Clones. Actually, no, Phantom Menace. Sorry, I get ahead of myself. Phantom Menace, if Duel of the Fates comes on, every single time that whole sequence comes on with Maul, I'm just like, I watch. I mean, if I hear the Duel of the Fates music, I immediately just turn and just like, you know, and I think it's one of the greatest lightsaber fights ever. That whole sequence. The rest of the movie, God, it's hard. I mean, the scenes with Qui Gon and Kenobi I like, but I mean, it's just a lot of stuff. Something happens and then we sit around and talk, and then something else happens and then we just sit around and talk, and then there's just a lot of sitting around and talk, and I'm like, man, you know, it's like, you know,
the pod racing was really cool.
The pod racing was cool.
That.
I like that.
I love the Tuskens shooting them.
Yeah, they were coming back to the gorge, and the Tuskens.
I love the Tuskens shooting them. Let me drink from my Mickey Mouse mug.
Absolutely.
I mean, there are good moments in that movie, but overall, it's just not a favorite of mine. It's just, ugh. And then after that, it's going to be Attack of the Clones. I can't watch Attack of the Clones. I'll watch the end fight between Yoda because I remember the theater. There were moments, but I'm just sitting there like I was in episode 1. But when Yoda came walking in, and he whipped out that lightsaber. I mean, I literally was crawling up my chair, squealing like a little girl. Like, what in the hell is going on here? And then he starts flipping around like he's Bruce Lee. Oh my God, I was dying. I've watched that a million times. Like, oh my God.
I remember opening night of that. The theater went completely nuts when Yoda came out and did that. Like,
it was screaming.
And it has not stood the test of time, just that movie in general, but when Yoda pulls out the lightsaber and literally pandemonium, and as much as Captain America is saying "Avengers Assemble" or grabbing the hammer, it was the same reaction in the theater when Yoda pulled out the lightsaber, man, because we had never seen it.
And like episode 1 that you had like Ewan McGregor and in the guy playing, I can't remember his name, Liam Neeson, they were able to pull off the dialogue in some of episode 1, so it's more of there are scenes that I can watch that because they're just the way they deliver and everything, but episode 2, man, I'm sorry. Anakin creeping, man, just completely takes me out of that movie. It's so bad, man.
Yes.
It's so bad. I'm sorry. If you can overlook that and it doesn't bother you, that's fine. But I'm sorry, man. They completely dropped the ball on Anakin and Padme. It's just some cheesy, awful dialect and creepy dialect that I'm just like, man, because I could see Anakin and Padme falling in love. And I get it, but the lines that they give each other, it's just like, people don't talk like that, man. Even in Star Wars, seriously, man. Like, come on, man. We could just, if they'd done it so differently and stuff, it's like, oh, it's just so brutal. I can't. Then after that, the last two, of course, is episode 8 and 9. You can put these at 10 or 11. I really don't care. I'll put episode 8 as 11 because 9, at least, I get that there were some good moments at episode 9, but it was so just helter skelter because of what happened in 8. I'll put 9 ahead of 8, but 8's my least favorite. I've gone back and forth on 8 a lot. There are some really great scenes in there in 8. Like the throne room scene fight for me was one of the most brutal fights I've ever seen in Star Wars. I mean, that was just incredible. But all the other stuff that's in there, what they did with Luke, they did do Luke dirty. That's why episode 8, the more I've thought about it, I'm like, nah, man, y'all did Luke dirty, man. I could have gotten in the beginning that he does have PTSD. He's just tired. He's tired of everything he's been through, right? But the way they brought him around, it's like, what? Nah, y'all did Luke dirty, straight up. And 9, as although it's got some great moments, but the nonsense they had to pull in 9 puts it at the bottom too. I mean, Palpatine being Rey being a Palpatine. You know, for me, if Rey had been a nobody,
yes, it'd be better.
It would have been better because that's, I think, the essence of Star Wars, that nobodies can come in and save the galaxy, you know, and it's and would have been more relatable to Rey's story. I didn't care if she's a Mary Sue. It's the Force, for God's sakes. The Force makes everybody a Mary Sue in some regards, but that she was a Palpatine, and that's why. Get out of here, man. And I know why they had to do certain things, but that one completely threw me off. It's like, okay, get out of here, man. Seriously. It just, and then Ben's sudden turn, a lot of it just doesn't work for me. The fun stuff, I remember telling my community that my mom loves episode 9. She's not invested with all the nonsense. She likes the sequels because for her, they're just fun movies. She doesn't have the bag, as Star Wars fans that we do, with being into the lore and all this other expectation we put on these movies and stuff. For her, they were fun movies. She loved them. She loves all the Star Wars movies, but she really liked the sequels way more than most people I know. So you have to keep everything with a grain of salt when you do rankings like this and how subjective it is. But yeah, 8 and 9, put them at the bottom. I can't.
You know, something else that I didn't like, beyond her being a Palpatine, I also really hate the message it sent when somebody asked her at the end, "Who are you?" and she said Rey Skywalker, and it was like, so like,
it's like, why do you have to change your name?
Of your heritage, you just throw it away and lie? Is that the message we're sending? I'll just lie about everything because I don't like it. I was just like, what? Embrace it, take it back, right? You know, be who you are. Just because your uncle was evil or something doesn't mean you have to be.
Yes, it does.
I don't know.
I mean, or at least explain it. Like, the reason she takes on the Skywalker name is because they're gone, you know. And so if she said something to somebody like, "I want to carry on the legacy of what they represented," or something, I'm Rey Skywalker. No context, nothing. It's like, oh, come on, man.
I didn't like that at all.
Well, all right, Ranger. I mean, that was fun. Gerbil, we didn't get your reaction to the Ewok comment. I'd like to hear a little more from you about the Ewoks and what Ranger's thoughts.
Sorry, somebody mentioned Ewoks?
Yeah, you know, all right. I guess that's the comment. Okay, so.
Well, you know, they weren't actually supposed to be like halflings originally. They were all going to be Wookiees.
They're Wookiees, yeah.
Yeah. That was where they were going to introduce Kashyyyk, and they changed it. So, yeah.
Yeah, because they're like, well, why are they all primitive if Chewbacca's fixing the Falcon? And that makes sense. I mean, I get that.
Well, and there weren't
But I
enough
think that-
7-foot tall people out there to recruit for Wookiees. Basically.
Yeah. Well, I think that it's not CG. Disney though is missing a big opportunity. Like, despite how a lot of the SWGOH community feels about Ewoks, they are very, very popular in that larger community you were talking about, Ranger. Like the people who are not super heavily invested, there's a lot of people who love them. And that's why you see Ewok shirts at Walmart and Target and stuff, because they sell Ewok plush toys, collectibles. There's tons of it. Yeah, it's a huge market. And there's this new kids show, Star Wars Tales of the Jedi or something. Young Jedi, I can't remember the name of it. It's a cartoon that just came out recently. And I tried to get my 5-year-old to watch it, and he's just like, nah, he doesn't like TV, so he's not watching it. But there's a character in there who's blue and looks like an Ewok, and his name is Nub, as in Yub Nub, but he's not an Ewok. And I was like, what a stupid missed opportunity right there to tie that in. But whatever. Sorry.
Yeah.
I can go on a tangent.
Popularity of the Ewoks is well known, I mean, but people will love the characters and stuff. There's nostalgia, for all this stuff, right? People. I've seen comments about Ahsoka and stuff. I'm like, you have to understand, Ahsoka. One, I really love Ahsoka. I think she's had one of the best stories in Star Wars. Period.
She's great,
but she relates to young girls. And it's a very positive and very meaningful thing. And you saw it at Celebration, the droves of girls that were dressed as Ahsoka in different iterations. Hell, I just did a parade in my Mando armor, and one of the ladies there was dressed as Fulcrum's Ahsoka, because, that character hits. So it makes
similar for Rey.
Rey too.
You go to what is that, the Galaxy's Edge at Disney World, and you'll see lots of young girls as Rey.
Yes,
it's very common.
So I get it. May not be my favorite. I'm not a big fan of the Gungans or the Ewoks, but I totally respect what they are. I understand what they are, and I respect the fact that people really love those characters. And I'm not going to poo-poo on somebody for what they love. I'm just more of a Mando Sith guy. That's just my nature. But I totally get if you're a Gungan Ewok person. So
I'm relic 9ing my entire Gungans faction, and it's actually NOOCH's fault. I don't know if I've told him this story.
Really?
It's your fault. Yeah.
Why is it NOOCH's fault?
I meant to take Jar Jar up to R7, and I was watching one of his vids, and I wasn't paying attention, and I was just spamming that upgrade button, and I didn't realize how many resources I had, and it wouldn't upgrade, and I was like, what's going on? And I'm looking at it, I was like, why is it grayed out? Why can't? And then I saw the 9. I was like, oh my. So yeah,
how is that NOOCH's fault?
Well, because I'm so entertaining. I'm so engaging, entertaining. Yeah, he had no control over what he was doing in his real life.
Yeah. So now that Jar Jar is relic 9, the whole squad has to be.
Well, I don't think you need to take him the relic 9. Jar Jar for sure. I took mine to 9 immediately because he's one of those characters that needs the relic 9.
Oh no.
Wait, hold on.
My Ewok squad is all relic 9.
We're glossing.
My Gungans have to be.
We're glossing over how awesome I am. Let's not belittle this. That the entertainment value of the channel was so much that Gerbil accidentally relic 9'd his Jar Jar. Let's focus on that, Ranger.
It might have been a compulsive Jedi mind trick.
Or just throwing it out there, Gerbil could do this thing called personal responsibility and just say, I wasn't paying attention.
What? I've never heard those words together. What does that
think you have. Yeah. I'll give you an old military leadership thing. Seek responsibility and take responsibility for your actions.
Nah, you're just a boomer, Ranger. You people responsibility.
That's confusing. Sorry. Too many syllables right there. Want.
Gentlemen. Take my Metamucil.
No, but I love niche factions. Like my Ewoks are all relic 9. My Gungans are going to go to 9, and then my Jawas I haven't decided. I mean, they're all like 5 to 8, but I just don't know that I can take them to 9. So I think I'll take them all to R8 just for the fun of it.
Disgusting creatures.
Yes, agreed. Well, boys, this was fun. I had a good time. Thanks to the movie rankings, Ranger. I love that you've put Rogue One at number 1. I think that's a good one there, and it's hard to disagree with, So there's a poster right there. So I think we'll look forward to what comes next. But this is a great conversation, Ranger. Thank you for joining us today.
My pleasure, my friend. I'm glad to always hang out with you. Fix your Discord I'll join you more often.
Well, again, it's got to be in the private room, like just like you did. I just can't have the people.
It's easy. You go to Discord, create room, make private, invite.
Blah blah blah. Anywho,
Ranger, I think everybody
whole-
knows who you are, but where do they find you for people watching?
Okay, so I've been around for a very, 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 very before you were born. Time here in Star Wars Galaxy Hero streaming. My God, it's just so. When you start getting to the 400 episodes of stuff, then you know you've been doing this too long. But we stream a lot on Twitch and YouTube. I do a lot of dual streaming now. It's Reality Skewed Gamers. You can find the channel easily on both YouTube and Twitch. Usually, I stream every day. Some days I do multiple streams. We always have the Wednesday night stream where we cover the latest news and stuff from SWGOH. Saturdays, I will do the Jedi Academy, where I just opened it up for myself and other content creators to be on. It's just a straight Q&A show where we just answer the community's questions, nothing else. We don't do anything but just answer questions on Saturdays. And then on top of that, RSG has been partnered with the American Cancer Society for a long time, and we do a lot of events to raise money for the ACS. We've raised a ton of money for them over the last many years. We do stuff like do children's hospital visits, where we're dressed up as Star Wars characters and give stuff out to the kids, things of that nature. We do that a lot. We all accumulate that into a Disney trip or MegaCon trip. Next year we'll be MegaCon again. We had a lot of fun in MegaCon this last year for that. But recently I've been getting dressed up as a Mando and partner with businesses and helping raise money that way. So I did the parade here in my area here recently and did a walkthrough through the park with all the events that were going on, and every kid tried to hug me. It was ridiculous. All this candy on them, like, Mando.
This is the way.
That's just the way it goes. We do that. We've done other stuff in the past, charities. We've done stuff like when the stuff happened with Minnie. Me and Kate and a bunch of others spearheaded that. Earth Rocker, I remember Earth Rocker. He was a big member of the community that passed away from cancer. So we do a lot of stuff on top of what we do. Besides SWGOH, we do other games and like Dungeons and Dragons and other stuff. So yeah, we're quite busy streaming what we're doing. But if you need SWGOH stuff, trust me, you got plenty of SWGOH stuff.
All right,
that's
awesome,
impressive.
man. Thanks for jumping on, and it was good to have Ranger on. Everybody. He's been here since the beginning of the game and literally streaming since 4 or 5 months into the game. So
I think since the Garden of Eden,
yeah, maybe since then. Watch that Forbidden Fruit. Gerbil, any final words for us today?
I don't know. I think I'm just impressed with Ranger's commitment to both the community and actually I love what you're doing for the Cancer Society.
Yeah.
That are raising money and funds. That's just awesome. So I would say, guys, go out, sub him, join his channel, watch, help out, and game on.
And there you go. Everybody, hey, we hope you all have a great day. Another fun episode here in the books. And of course, always remember, NOOCH and Gerbil and Ranger, too good